this is a model when it was clean. Same one that's over there that I made to show the trustees and also to basically see what it was going to look like.
At what stage of the proposal process was it that you made the model? Was it agreed to before you made the model?
No, it wasn't. No, I had to take it in and present it. And most of the trustees had never seen it before. I'd shown something similar to Monty when she was alive, but it wasn't the perfect hyperbola, the formula. And she said at the time that I was on the right track. The story goes that I knew it had to do this, and I built all these models. And, well, in the very beginning, Eric said, when I first arrived in '74, he said, you're going to be doing a lot of work here, a lot of buildings and so on, but don't forget the one building that Baba specifically asked for, and that was the Memorial Tower. So for 30 or 40 years, I thought about it. And then when the Pilgrim Retreat was finished, it was, and I'm pushing 75 or something, I figured I better finally do something, but couldn't figure out what. Couldn't get it right. And I'm talking to Erico, sort of complaining to Erico of my problem, and he just said, oh, wait a minute, I know what you're doing, I know what you're doing. And he pulled this book off the shelf, and it showed this discovery of what they call Gabriel's horn, which is the graph of x, y equals 1, rotated around the vertical axis, and it creates this horn shape. But in mathematics, in the formula, I don't get too technical, but this line keeps extending, and keeps getting closer and closer to the horizontal, and this line keeps getting closer and closer to perfectly vertical. And at infinity, it would reach verticality, and down here, it would reach horizontality. But only at infinity. So that meant that this circle would grow to enclose everything. It would, and this point would get smaller until it became nothing. So it's a very, very clear, I think, physical symbol of the own point of the universe coming into existence from the own point. The people who discovered this were mathematicians in Italy a few hundred years ago, and they were all Christians, and they called it Gabriel's horn, because the angel Gabriel blew his horn and blew the universe into existence. And there's a interpretation from it's mentioned in the Quran as a trumpet, and there's explanation by the perfect master Ibn al-Arabi about wideness to narrowness to the path to excellence and so on. So both the three major religions kind of recognize this shape as a symbol of the creation. And the plinth is the master and servitude symbol, and it points toward samadhi. Baba gave the discourse that's on the tower. This is what's actually carved in the marble up there, and where he said, build a tower on this site. And it would have the symbols of the important religions of the world and the names of his departed lovers. And at the end, he wrote a mystery. He was there for this program in 1944 when Baba put a flower in the graves of Masaji and Chanji, or the grave of Masaji in the pit that Chanji's bedroll was placed, and had Adi read the names of everyone that had been departed. And then Adi kept it up, and then Erich kept it up until 1968, June, when Baba asked for the list to be read to him twice. So you won't find Mani, Mara, or Erich, or any of them on the tower, because they were still alive. And you'll find people that you've never heard of. So, why they're there. Oh, and at the end, just the way Mary used to do it, flower petals and whatever's left over, Baba placed put them in and said, "These are for my future lovers." So that's also inscribed on the names. The names go on concentric circles on the base there. So the spire, how to finish it was a question, and I wanted to finish it in glass, just because obviously you can't make it disappear, but so it is glass, and then it also has these solid glass prisms that break the sunlight up and leave a patch of rainbow spectrum on the base. It also includes lightning arrestor, the copper cable goes all the way down the ground, and these fiber optic cables that have lenses, and they light up the spire at night. The light source is down on the ground, and it shines through the glass cable. So there's no maintenance and no bulbs to change at the top. There are the lenses. So the lightning arrestor, how to do that? Huey got very much involved. Did you find Erica or Paul did? Because this was Australia.
I found it.
You found it, yeah. And it turned out the people that helped us most, their names were Erica, which is pretty fun. Erica was deceased by that time, but he remembered. So I would play with prisms just to see whether this rainbow thing would work. So that was in 2009 at 3:30 p.m. We'd get a little patch of light down there.
It was on the terrace of your house.
On the terrace of the house, right. And I found these little things, and that seemed to work. And then I put it all up on a pole, so it's actually 56 feet from the ground. And sure enough, it worked. And then I discovered that when you look up at it and move your head slightly, you see all these different colors. How to communicate with the marble people, the shape of this thing, and also because they have machines that are computer guided, and they cut the marble according to this formula. So that is actually quite accurate shape. It's cut by computer mathematically according to that formula. Ty Provosty came along, and he's very proficient with AutoCAD. He's very experienced with stonework, so he did these AutoCAD drawings. And then we needed, because it's such a narrow thing, in fact it's only 8 inches in diameter at one point, we had to get some very special, strong steel, stainless steel. All the steel in this is stainless. And it had to be a certain alloy, the 304S or something like that. And it had to have a wall thickness that was, in some cases, 3/4 inch thick, and only 3.5 inches in diameter. So where you get pipes like that was a problem. And nowhere in the world would they, I mean, they existed, but no one would sell me one or make one. But I got on the internet as a last resort and talked to this company, no, not these people, the next one. Yeah, Nidhi Impex. This little shop in Bombay. And the guy picked up the phone and I told him my problem. He said, "Sir, I will make it a matter of honor to find this pipe." And sure enough, he did. Where, I'll never know. I mean, this says a 3/4 inch wall thickness. This is a 12-inch diameter thing with a 1/2 inch wall thickness. And it's this peculiar stainless steel as well. So it's a miracle. Oh, and then we cut little pieces of it and took it to this fellow who did the elongation tests and all that. He's a government tester, that fellow.
What's an elongation test?
Well, how they push it and pull it and determine its strength. And its composition. You know, its chemical composition. So they ended up in Meherabad. And we paid for him, and the guy in Bombay, and the guy said, "Okay, I'll be sending him to you." And I get a phone call from a truck driver saying, "Where do you want him?" And I said, "Well, who are you?" He said, "Well, I got these pipes for you from Bombay." And I said, "Well, you know where Meherabad is?" He said, "Yeah, I know where it is. It's which side of the side of the Dooney or the other side?" And I said, "The other side." And, so he shows up, and there are these pipes. Saeed was here. Saeed actually lifted them off the truck. And I went over to the, I took the cello and went to the office to get money to pay the guy. And when I came back, it was gone. And no one knows who he was. I called up Sam, who helped me in Bombay. I called up the guy from, no, I just gave it to this transport. Do you remember which one? No. I said, "Well, I owe money." He said, "No, you don't owe anybody any money." Yeah. That doesn't happen very often.
Proof of the miracle.
Yeah, this is full of miracles. So this is the top bit are our cylinders, and then the bottom bit are tiers or plates. And this is the factory that made them. It's a huge factory in Ahmedabad, and again, the guy, I went up there one year and told him about it. He says, "Yeah, we can do this." He builds Jain temples around the world. With these, you know, he takes a picture of a statue and puts it in the computer, and the computer produces it in granite or marble or any size you want. So it was not a difficult task for him, but it was unbelievably expensive. And
Who made the mathematical model to give to him? It's a certain type of 3D file.
I know, and it's not just X, Y equals 1 because it stops here and there. And the only guy that could do it was Matt from Australia. Big, tall, blonde guy.
No, it's correct.
Matt Ives?
Matt Ives, yeah. And then he couldn't do it, and his brother apparently is some super math or computer person. So they came up with a formula that long. And I had a clue on this. I thought it would be simple, but obviously it wasn't. Anyway, so that happened. Okay, so we couldn't afford that cost, so I went back, I think a year later, ready to accept it because there wasn't any alternative. And I started hemming and hawing with the owner. And, can we use maybe not the A class, maybe B plus or something like that? And he said, no, you have to use A. And I want to do this project, so what can you pay me? And I didn't even know what to say there, so then he turned around and said, I'll do it for about half of what he said. So Baba got to him too. Yeah. This is some of his machines. And there's a lot. These are some of the blocks that were used. Collected all these blocks. Yeah, he has a quarry in the quarries in Mount Abu. His father restored Dilwara, which is the most amazing marble structure in the world. It's the sculpture inside. It's not a big cathedral-like building, but inside the sculpture is beyond belief. And he owned this thing, so he's fabulously wealthy. But he didn't want to just sell marble for a living, so he went and bought all this computer stuff and makes temples all over the world. I learned about him from the Sufis who were building it. There was a temple being built in Walnut Creek, and they'd heard of this guy. So,
how long did it take to actually machine the pieces, for lack of a better word?
18 months, year and a half. And this was the granite, they also did the granite plaque stand. This is the drawing for that. This is a picture of the model. Now what happens, the men's graves, Masaji and Chanji, are just those gray cement tiles like the Erich and everybody over there, the men's graveyard. And so the plinth of this is higher than that was. That was right on ground level. So I took the tiles off. I have them stored over here, and the two marble pieces. And we built up over the grave. We did not do any excavation around there. In fact, all the support on either side is cantilevered out. So we didn't do any digging around here. And we also didn't do a lot of digging around the tree, so we wouldn't kill the tree. So when the paving is done, then the same old cement markers will go back. So these will be simple, and they'll look just like they did before we started the Spire.
Is that the way the nameplates went? That way?
Right.
With that, see how you've got the plaques on the
These two guys?
northern? All the men's plaques are south. Were they always like that? Or?
They were like that.
Really? So
Yeah.
the only two like it, huh? That men that...
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the others are facing the other way.
So it'll be raised like that upon completion?
Well, see, the tiles, it's just like the men's
Okay.
thing. I mean, it's one tile high, basically. So,
All right.
Yeah. And then this is the granite from this is where we assemble it in the factory. And they did this in the factory, the discourse plan.
So it's one piece of granite with
Two,
just...
I'm sorry, three. There's a joint here and here. Basically, Mr. Joshi just dug the whole Manfred servitude out to hard strata. There wasn't any point trying to just do little trenches and footings, since I dug the whole thing out. And then did the stonework and filled it. The tower itself has a huge block of reinforced concrete with epoxy steel, I think we got. Yeah, and anchor bolts. They go deep into the ground. And then this big block. And then the bolts for just to hold the pipe. You'll see the spine of the thing. And then we had the carvers working also. Just doing these little things at the top, and then just regular little square stones for the wall itself. This is where it came from Walmorty, which is just Niwasa, which is very close to Meherabad.
They weren't cast. I thought they were cast. They were rolled.
No way.
No.
Let's see. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, one by one.
Yeah. Salmon's boy, Mahesh.
Nice.
So I made templates so that I made templates for everything, and little plaster Paris models for pretty much every stone. I mean, every type of stone. This is what some of the stones look like when they arrived at Meherabad. Huge things. And Mr. Joshi built a crane and put out one of these giant stone saws or table saws, which is still there. Yeah, there it is. So it's all this big stone, hand carved stone. Those are the anchor bolts for the spine. This is about a meter. This is about what, 2 inches diameter?
Yeah.
2 inch diameter bolts. Made up. I mean, everything was made up for this. Nothing, you don't buy anything off the shelf.
So that was tied to the epoxy steel that was fastened to the epoxy steel in the slab, in the footing.
Right, and also, these were all copper plates for all this, so everything has been used as a ground, or earthing for the, as you well know, for the lightning arrestments. And in MIDC they had, again, this Gopal Krishna, this enormous factory out there, and they make truckloads of things for Italy and France and USA and stuff. And so we go and ask him to make a little bracket like this, and it's a little carved out of wood. You know, it's really complicated. And he stops everything and tried. He actually wasn't able to do it. He cast it. He caught it. Finally, I had to get the guy Kuna. Yeah.
Is this the cradle or the?
Well, it's part of the well, here, we'll see. Yeah, the cradle, he made the cradle, the guy at MIDC. He also did all the welding. See, these are the base plates for the pipes. There you go. And you got argon, gas, welding. This is kind of welding. Special gas shielding so the oxygen doesn't mix with the other stuff, and keeps it clean and keeps it better well.
There's the hole in the pipe for the conduit as well.
That's right. Yeah. Here it is being delivered because we really get it in so we didn't sort of hang out the bottom of the truck and get bent and things like that.
Long container.
Yeah. So we put the first pipe up because if we'd done the whole thing at once, we never would have been able to get the marble over the top. So we did it in stages. We did this big one here and then poured the concrete and then put the biggest cylinders over that and then took the rest of the pipe and attached it. And we were able to lift the rest of the marble slabs just using, it was an electric winch, but it wasn't like a giant crane like this thing.
Well, was the attachment bolted, two plates together?
Yeah. Now here, this is something cool. See, these are plumb bobs. This is how we do it in India. We don't have GPSs and we don't have lasers, and we do, but this is better, frankly. What he did was plumb bobs, and you made the plumb bobs.
Yeah.
And
Immersed in oil.
and submerged them in buckets of motor oil so that the wind couldn't push them around. I mean, they could move, but you just waited for it to settle. And then you could measure from here to the wire at the top and at the bottom. On the opposite.
What did you measure?
angles.
What did you measure with?
You got it there? I mean, it was a calipers.
A caliper.
Yeah.
Who came up with this?
Here it is.
Who came up with this
So
method?
this is a unit, the oil thing, yeah. Yeah, here's the calipers. Oh, you also had to make your the wrenches because they were to tighten this stuff up. And then we fished this pipe in, which was really tricky because it had to do a bunch of things. It had to hold 4 fiber optic cables, and it had to hold the lightning rod thing, and it also had to act as a drain for condensation inside the pipe or inside the gaps in the marble. And that was a lot of fun. And we had to fill the pipe up to a certain level, but not beyond a certain point, so that the drain holes worked. And the only way to tell is to peer through the hole and lower a light bulb down in there so you could see the level as it was being filled up. And a lot of the forms for the concrete were just drawing it out on a computer full size and cutting a piece of plywood and using that as a, and this just rotated around as it poured the concrete. First time we ever had a ready mix at Meherabad, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
RMC. The steel is coated with epoxy.
yeah, epoxy paint, all the steel. And all the steel has copper, what do you call it, copper flat bar. It's all being used as a grounding.
Is it common to epoxy steel inside concrete? When is it required to do stuff like that?
It's probably overkill, but
For the last 700
yeah.
years.
We use also stainless steel binding wire for this.
Oh, and stainless steel binding wire, yeah.
Well,
Speak up. Yeah, we made these forms. Here it is. So that's concrete base, and after this, then the marble starts to be erected. Build the scaffolding, and put the next set of pipes on it. So see, these are the drawings from the marble place. They gave us shop drawings to check, because it required little lips and little grooves and so on. These are the cylinders. The cylinders are connected through stainless steel pins at the top, at the top, I guess you call it. And then in the gap between the pipe and the marble is Teflon shims are done, because the marble will expand and contract at a different rate than the steel. The steel will move a lot more than the marble, so it had to slide in and out. But it had to stay, so it had to be able to do this, but not be able to do that. So these are the tubes.
what would you call that shape? Is there a name for that? I mean, that's a very unusual convex.
They call them tiers.
It's a bizarre shape. I mean, how you can make something like that is mind-blowing.
Saddle.
Huh?
Saddle shape.
Saddle.
Oh yeah, it's a saddle. Yeah.
So this is fit it roughly together to see whether they had it right at the factory in Meherabad. And then they packed it in the center, as we've seen. So then we have so the reason for this, we had to build this cradle to support the glass. Now the glass things are really heavy, and it wouldn't have been a good idea to make it with marble supported. So it had to sit and be fully supported on the steel pipe. So, and would also have to be removable and sometime in the future they had to do it. So making this thing that would hold the glass, hold the prisms, hold the glass, fit down inside the pipe, was tricky. And these are the little brackets I'm telling you about. There's 4 of them, but it's a big deal making those and getting it right. So who's going to make them? They didn't make any money making these, but they had to be expert, and they had to have a lot of tools and stuff to do it. So to do the top, we built a plaster Paris model. somebody, and then we drove that to Meherabad and gave it to them, and then they, in fact, it's still here now, and then they did the marble accordingly. So we were able to make sure that the saddle for the glass and the spire and the prisms fit in this, and then carved the plaster Paris thing around so it fit just right, and then gave them the plaster Paris thing to make out of marble. And this is the marble. This is the marble version of it. But these are the prisms that came from China.
Every one a different size.
Yeah. No one would make these prisms. And so it's kind of the same thing as it was with the pipes. Went to all the obvious glass manufacturers in the world, and no one would do it. Now, again, only 4 of them. So I got on the internet and found a company in Shanghai, a family in Shanghai that made glass souvenirs and stuff. And they said, well, okay, we'll do it, but if we get an order for this type of non-expansive glass, then we can afford to mix it up and make your thing along with that. But you'll have to wait till we get an order for that. So a year went by and they didn't get an order, and they said to me, we're sorry, we didn't get an order, we're not going to be able to do this. And I just went back and I said, you're our only hope. No one else in the world will do this. Please, please, please do this. So they, of course I told them about Meherabad and pictures of what
The Parsi Mafia?
No, I didn't do that.
Okay.
But it was a casting process of solid glass casting.
They cast it, and then it takes 80 days to cool it. Because you got to cool it turn it down a degree every day or something. Because if you do it too fast, it doesn't cool evenly, and you end up with stresses that eventually crack it. But they relented and said, okay, and did it.
Did they cut the glass afterwards, or did they make a mold?
They made a mold and then polished it.
There's a delivery story with that too, wasn't it? It was a bit stressful.
Oh yeah. They said, okay, we're done. Where do you want them? And I said, well, send them to Bombay, but I don't care what it costs, put them on an airplane and pack them really well, please. And so I get this piece of paper saying it had arrived in Madras. And it was being held in customs there because nobody knew anything about it, what it was worth or anything. So fortunately, it's Bayram Irani, the shipping agent in Bombay, knew somebody there, and he calls me and says, okay, it's coming now, it's on its way. I said, how? He said, truck. Okay. I get a notice that it's arrived, so I go out to MIDC and drive around, and do anybody know where this place is and that place? And they point me here and there, and then I see this truck, empty truck, parked out in front of one of those little buildings. And I look in the back, and there's this thing with Chinese figures on it. It was all broken to pieces. The crate was. It was just thin plywood and some styrofoam. And I was in the Jeep. So we put it in the Jeep, and I drove it here, parked it, and then I went home. I didn't want to open them, I couldn't bear to open them. And so the next day I felt better, and I came down, opened them, and they were fine. The top of the glass is etched because, and if it were just plain glass, you'd be able to see the light sources very clearly, and you wouldn't really see any of the glass. The glass has to be painted with, it has to be frosted, otherwise the light just goes through it without any seeing it. So deliberately, the top third has been frosted. The sunlight to create the rainbows has to be at an angle like this anyway for it to work. So this comes down only this far, but it won't interfere with the sunlight that will cause the refraction through the prisms. But it allows this to glow. And you don't just look at 4 bright light bulbs in there. So Nadia did that. I think we got some better pictures on that. You can't really see much of it from down here. And these are like the brackets, these little 4 brackets. And all the machining we did, and we had to do it again, and so on and so forth. All the gaskets. That's this room. Taken with some weird lens.
It's a panorama thing.
So this is the contraption that where they assembled the Spire. One of the tricky bits is trying to get inside and work on the inside, but then close it up. That contraption was designed by Paul. I thought it was crazy. Turned out we couldn't have done it without it. And then it became the case in which it was carried over and lifted in place. Later on it became a way to hoist the marble in place. It turned out pretty good. So again, this is really just sort of made up gimmicks to make the things work, put things together. Here we go. This is Paul holding his breath. I knew we were old, but you weren't sure. Yeah, this is the washer we made to get the copper bond, and also I think we felt we had to raise it a little bit.
So there's a stainless steel one above it there, see in the hand? In your hand?
Right.
That was a spaceship, I think.
So we made all this stuff.
And it had to be exactly the right direction. That's why 1, 2, 3, 4
Oh, right,
had to line up with 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, it's compass line with a compass. Okay, that's you cutting off your glass.
All worked it.
So you bring all these special tools from Australia to do that. Those are the lenses. There's here you fitted them, right? Yeah, now you've done your fitting. Now we're putting the cap on. And that's a good picture of Nadia's etching. This is stainless steel, 1-inch stainless steel pipe that contains all the copper and glass cable. So this is just get it put on. That's the cap. This is a nice picture when it was getting dark.
Did we shine a torch in the
studio
cable?
up there.
Is that got the fibre optic on it, or has that just got a torch running down the cable?
No,
That hasn't got the lighting source?
I don't know where that light's coming from.
Well, I think you got me to put a torch on it just
Maybe,
to try it
yeah.
once, you know, because it would travel up there, but
There you go. Yeah.
That's a nice picture.
Yeah, that's so beautiful.
You get to see the character she put in the pitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, the frost, so it's quite frosty at the top, and then at the frost gets less frosty as it goes down. So now the time's come to put the tiers down, and we're just going to start lining them out. We made wooden, because the tiers are supported by brackets. They're not laid in mortar. Brackets are bolted to the concrete, and they fit in slots in the marble, and the marble slots have Teflon pads, so no steel touches the marble, but the marble is held tightly, but it could still move if, in case of earthquake, and also could be theoretically replaced. So the positioning of brackets was really tricky. And making the brackets was tricky. These are all, we had to redesign the brackets for everything because the angles are all unusual. These are brackets with the Teflon pads and the silicone knobs and stuff. This is how the marble is fitted onto the steel, or onto the concrete. Turns out we had to remake all the grooves. Lining them up was tricky. It's like, basically we ran into, you couldn't do it with the people we had here, so we called the guy from Trevay to come down, because I knew they'd done it in the factory. And so he came down, and we did have to line some edges off. The idea that something made by computer is always perfect doesn't seem to be the case.
I didn't hear Ted, you did have to grind some more from it, or what? I didn't hear because the train.
Well, okay, the toughest one was this first one, the first set. It's just getting the brackets to where the surfaces were level and so on. Was extremely hard. And then getting to the final one, it just was too far off. And also discovering that these, to Ty's great dismay, these were not all the same size.
The actual marble pieces were not the same?
Not the same.
I mean, not terribly off, but, a quarter of an inch off.
Well, what did, when the man came, they were computer controlled, what did he say?
That's the way it is.
It's an Indian computer.
Yeah. I mean, the idea that, I don't know, maybe you can make small objects perfectly thing, maybe. But definitely have to fudge.
In an earlier picture, you showed it in the factory all assembled.
Yeah.
Did you have a good enough resolution picture to zoom in and to check that out?
Well, that's what convinced me it could be done.
Yeah.
Ty was saying, you're going to have to send this, you're going to have to make a new piece. I said, I don't think you can. Not get out of, first of all, I don't think he's going to do it. Second of all, it won't be the same color because it won't be from the same place. And third, it would take 2 years or something. So he came and he did it. I mean, but he was a very experienced young man.
And did he have to grind all pieces or just
No.
the odd one? Just one here, one there, he just...
Well, I would say that all of them, we went over to here then,
Yeah.
not a lot. But on one of them, the last one, we had to about an inch off.
How many tiers did you have to do that for us to?
All of them.
All tiers needed to come back
Yeah,
in?
it wasn't always an inch, but we had to, the last tier had to always be trimmed. Thank God it had to be trimmed and not made larger. Because that would have, we wouldn't be able to do that. These guys are, this is Paul's work here, motion sensors with a beam that goes between. If that beam is, somebody hops over this flower bed and gets on the marble and wants to carve their name, an alarm will go off.
Huey figured a way to get around it though.
I'm sure he has.
Yeah, but if I only have to worry about magicians.
So I was putting the, this is the guy I was talking about, this guy Suresh. Putting the granite plaque stand together. Okay, here we are in Tim's lab in the USA, right?
Yeah.
You're doing something there.
I'm drying the slip on a piece of clay so it doesn't break. If I didn't use a heat gun, it would collapse, and so I had to do that. And,
That's a heat cut there.
yeah.
What are the pipes?
Those are PVC. Those are just a contraption I made so I can dip clay cylinders into slip and dry it very quickly, then dip it again, dry it very quickly, and finally build up a layer. The design that has some circles, it's just something that I devised, and it works. That little, they're held by a little clamp of wood up there.
This one?
No, the top sticking out horizontally out right there. Those are the paper. This all was designed on a CNC. Same thing as you guys designed the marble with the same technique. 3D modeling and a CNC router, cut the plaster molds.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, right there, yeah. Yeah. And and all black liquid clay called slip to create the black lines between the designs. Those are colored pieces of clay, but they've all been coated with black clay, and they're waiting to be assembled now.
So that's how you get the lines between them,
Yeah, it was
by
certainly,
just painting the outside of the thing.
right, each one had 3 coats of black slip for assembly. Yeah. And I used paper, newsprint, to absorb the moisture. Yeah. A lot of little techniques. I'm going to write it all up, so it can be replicated. And that's sizing a slice of a thing with a rib, called a rib, that metal piece. And I've dried everything on a curve because they tend to warp the opposite direction. So I have to dry them on a curve so that they unwarp to the horizontal.
They really look good. I love the way they,
Yeah. Well, it was all
rest
done.
on that shape.
Yeah, it was a lovely shape.
Yeah.
All done with designed on a computer with 3D modeling program. And that's, I think that's probably the fired. I'm not even sure. Yeah, that looks like fired. Yeah.
So that's not the very first piece, but
What's your idea with the design in them? Is that Ted's design or your design? What's about the...
That was my design, and Ted okayed it, and the idea of that design is all the symbols are designed with the same quadrant of 16 little designs so that they're like beads on a string, and that was the theme of it. They're all the same design with different colors and shapes, but all the same.
So, and the design itself is just an artistic thing, you know,
Yeah.
with the actual decals on it?
Well, yeah, it's just an artistic thing, but I made 16 little designs, 3 little wavy lines, or a circle and a circle, or a square and a square, and all those little designs, assembled them into 16, a block of 16, and that block of 16 was then replicated in different colors through all the different shapes. So that they're all, if you go around, they'll just look like they're all the same kind of thing, and they are, so it's the beads on a string theme.
And green is obviously the Muslim religion.
Yeah, I definitely use the colors that are common to that religion. Some, like Buddhism, have many different colors you have to choose, and Christianity as well. But Islam has green, and Om is orange and red usually, and so the fire cup, of course, has got flames. Yeah.
and Israel's flag is blue. So
Yeah, always blue.
And they go well together.
Yeah.
they're very simple. They're not elaborate. They all have the same vocabulary. No one is competing with another one. I think they're really
Except the mastering servitude will be a little more.
unique, yeah.
Yeah.
Different decal, different design on it, not that same 16
It'll have the
shape.
same, it'll have all the colors on Bob's flag, which all these use. It'll be outlined so that it'll have a little, and it'll be increased in size somewhat, not magnificently bigger, but somewhat. And
They still have these same shapes, those same little shapes that you've got on the square,
Yeah,
round and worms.
same design, yeah.
All right. Okay, this is the circle. This is what, we got the list, the official list, and it was proofread a million times. And then Sheila Krinsky went to Sherry Art Press and they formatted the names on the 21 rings and 353 names. So she formatted them on the thing, and then we're able to take this and print
353 names or words?
pardon me, 353 names plus and my future lovers. And from this file, we can print the full-size names on newsprint, basically, and that's glued on the marble, and then the carvers chisel away. And this is Haiti making this form. This is one tier. There are 7 lines on each tier. So in order to get the lines, to draw the lines, she inserted little lead pieces on this curved wooden piece and went around and drew them that way. And then they glued the printouts on the lines. And then let's see what happens. Yeah, then the carvers come in and just carve through the paper. Like that. And just the other day, the fellow came and the symbols were traced up there, and he came and he cut out.
Started with the easy one.
That was the first one.
And even that had to be corrected.
Any colorful comments on this?
Well, just, I mean, perfection belongs to God. That's the comment.